Hey team, welcome to another video for Building Better Baseball, the best place for baseball education. I'm Coach Hart, and in this video, we're going to cover the baseball education, coaching, and skill development for 8U and 9U players. And this video is going to cover everything that you need to be teaching and that your players need to learn about baseball, and everything that you don't need to worry about and you can kind of wait to teach when they're older. Remember, I'm Coach Hart, this is Building Better Baseball, and this is the best place for baseball education. So let's get into today's video. Some quick thoughts before we start. So the biggest change at this age is the introduction to live pitching. So before 8U, they've been hitting off a T&T ball, they have been doing machine pitch, they haven't done live pitching yet. This is the age where they introduce live pitching. So that's a huge change to the game of baseball for this age. And some rules have the 9U pitching rubber at further distances, but they have the same base paths and the same distances. So the only thing that we would need to worry about between 8U and 9U is the pitching rubber is a little bit further. And there are so many different rules about stealing. Some leagues allow you to steal, some leagues don't. Some leagues have certain rules where you can't steal home, but you can steal their bases. So I'm not going to go over specific rules about stealing because every league is different. But just know that this age group, there are some leagues that allow you to steal. So what should the focus be for this age group? Now, we've already fostered the love of the game in the 6U age group, right? We need to continue that. That should be a big focus for this age group, to continue fostering that fun and strengthening the love of the game, because that love of the game is what's going to continue to push them all the way through high school and want to get better. And the kids are going to be more serious about learning and improving. So they love the game. So what do you do with something you love? You want to get better. So these kids are going to be way more serious about learning and improving. And they are complete sponges at this age. They just soak up everything that you teach and everything that you coach. So as long as you're coaching them with the skills, they're going to be receptive and they're going to be sponges about it. So the first big thing is we have to teach the basics of pitching and arm care, right? So we introduce pitching. This is completely new to them. We have to introduce the basics of the pitching position and how to pitch, right? So that includes the basic mechanics. We don't want to get into the kind of details because they're just starting out. This is a new skill for them. So just the basics of mechanics, right? We also want to go over the different speeds of a fastball and possibly a changeup. Not a lot of 8U players can throw a changeup. Some 9U players can, but the teaching of the different speeds, and that's how pitchers are successful of throwing different speeds, that's important to teach at a very young age. And we want to go over the importance of pitch count. Every league has pitch count rules, and we need to teach them why that is. It's for arm care, to save your arm and to keep it healthy throughout your baseball career, right? We don't want any injuries, and they have to understand why pitch count is important. You want to teach the basic strategies of the strike zone, where there's an inside pitch, an outside, a high, and a low, where you don't have to throw it down the middle every single time for a strike. So that's important to teach at a young age. And basic pitching strategy also. If you see a player who's really far away from the plate, you want to throw it to the outside part of the plate, right? If you see a player swinging the high pitches, maybe you keep on throwing it higher or higher or higher. Just basic pitching strategy to help them start thinking like a pitcher and not thinking like a thrower. A lot of young pitchers, all they want to do is just throw the ball, and they're thinking like a thrower rather than thinking like a pitcher that is strategic in the pitches that they throw. And another big thing is a lot of kids, they all see these MLB players and college players who are just getting all these strikeouts, right? We want to teach them to pitch to contact. We don't want to have them try to strike everybody out, because likely they could strike people out, but when it doesn't happen, that can't be their sole goal of striking people out. That's not what pitching is about. Pitching is about keeping your pitch count low, staying in the game, and helping your team win. And it also, when you pitch to contact and the batters hit the ball, we have to teach them that that keeps your defense engaged. We don't want your defense out there just sitting around looking in the stars, right? We want them engaged. We want them fielding the ball. And that's a really important thing to teach young players and to create that foundation of thinking like a pitcher. So moving on to more focuses. And for skill development, any skill, right? Hitting, fielding, pitching, anything you teach, we want to build on that foundation that we created before 8U. Remember, in the 6U, we only did 3 Qs. We can get a little bit more detailed in the skill development for these age groups. We want to start expanding their knowledge with more detailed coaching, like I just said. So for each skill that you teach, you want to get a little bit more detailed because they're older and they can understand why that is going to help them. So in hitting, instead of saying set up, load, and swing, we want to say set up, and then when you're load, you want to say time the pitcher. That's a big thing because they're introduced to pitching, right? You want to time the pitcher. The load is for timing the pitcher, and when you swing, maybe you start talking about your loads, a different type of load, where you could say you can step forward, you can pick up and put down, you can just do a rock. So you can start getting a little bit more detailed in the skill development and the skills that you teach because they're older and they can understand that. The big thing is why. We have to teach them why it is helping and why it's important to go through all these things. And we want to start goal setting, both team and individual. So goals are huge to get better at baseball and really get better at anything in life. And in 8U and 9U, this is where they can start setting goals for the season, for a game. And you want to start out simple. Have the players make a goal of, I want to get 1 hit today, or I want to not strike out today. You can have them have a season goal, a game goal, or anything like that. And you want to have team goals. So you want to say, we want to win at least 5 games this year, or we want to have no errors in the field, or less than 3 errors in the field, or something like that, right? You want to make them simple, but you want to introduce them to goal setting because that's what's going to propel them and help them improve throughout their baseball career as they get older, is setting goals and putting in the work to accomplish those goals. That's huge in these young ages. So some more focuses. We want to introduce more in-depth situational baseball. We want to introduce priorities on the field, where center field has priority over the outfield, shortstop has it over the infield, and the different priorities. We also want to teach them why. I'm going to say that a lot. Everything that you teach in this age group, we have to say why, so they have an understanding of why it's important to learn these things. Because if you just tell them what to do, they have no basis and they have no foundation of why they're doing it, right? Cutoffs. We want to introduce cutoffs because the kids in 8U and 9U, they're hitting the ball a little further. And the outfielders are going out. They're young. They can't make that full throw to second base. We want to introduce the cutoffs. Infield in. So the infield in and why. That's a part of baseball that we can introduce at this level, is to limit the runs. And when there's a runner on third, we play infield in. And the reason is because we want to get that out at home. Pre-pitch positioning, and this is based on previous swings and previous at-bats. So we want to have them engaged in the field. And the way that we can do that is if they see that their pitcher is throwing pretty hard and the batter is getting really late on the ball and a right-handed batter is fouling it off to the first base side or left-handed batter to the third base side, and you can teach them to move a little bit more and read the batter's swing so that they're in a better position to field that ball where it's going to be hit. And also previous at-bats. If the first batter comes up and he hits the ball into the shortstop and third base gap, the next time that batter comes up, we want our defense to remember that so the shortstop can maybe shade a little bit more and the third baseman can shade a little bit more. That's a huge part of baseball that we can really introduce in this age group. And bunting, that's really your choice if you want to teach your kids to bunt or not. I know that a lot of teams don't bunt at this age group, but some teams like to bunt. If you would like to teach bunting and why we bunt, then you can do that. And rundowns, and that's really your choice. It really depends on if you can steal or not. So that's really your choice. If you think that your team can handle that concept of operating a proper rundown, then you can do that. Now we're going to get into what you should not worry about at this age group. The skills that are not needed yet. One of them is picking off. There's no leading in this age group, so we don't have to worry about pickoff moves. And leading and holding runners, same thing. The possibly stealing. So if you can't steal, there's no reason to teach it, right? Because you can't steal in your league. But if you do steal, then you can teach them how to properly steal when the ball crosses the plate and leaving off of the bag. You can do that. Any other pitch besides fastball and changeup. This is huge for new pitchers. They see all of these older players, MLB, throwing all these curveballs and sliders and everything like that. That will hurt their arm, and they need to understand that. Right now, they don't understand the arm care and everything like that, right? So the biggest thing that we need to teach these young players is the importance of locating your fastball and getting strikes and having a changeup. The changeup, when it's thrown right, I believe is the best pitch in baseball. It has less stress on your arm than a spinning pitch. And also, when it's thrown right, it's 10 miles an hour slower than your fastball. And that's what we talked about in the beginning of talking about different speeds and thinking like a pitcher and not thinking like a thrower. Drills to increase velocity for pitchers. The command is number one. Commanding your fastball, throwing strikes, that should be your number one priority. As they get older and as they get stronger, the velocity will come. They will start throwing harder. An 8U or 9U player, that's not what it's about. It's not about throwing hard. It's about pitching, learning how to pitch, and locating your fastball and locating your changeup if you have one. So some more things to not worry about. Strength training. Now, I know this is kind of a controversial issue. A lot of people like it, a lot of people don't. And I believe that you should only be doing body weight exercises like push-ups and sit-ups and things like that, and maybe some light bands. So we use resistance bands a lot in baseball to kind of warm up our arm and everything like that. And I believe that the resistance bands, they also strengthen the little muscles in the joint that you're working out. So I believe only body weight exercises and light bands that you can do. Launch angle and hitting for power drills. If we teach efficient mechanics and we have a contact focus, that power will come. As they get older, same thing with pitching. That power will come. We don't have to make that a focus of trying to hit the ball harder, because most likely when a young kid tries to power the ball out of the park, their mechanics and their swing get all out of whack, right? We don't want that to happen. We want to coach efficient mechanics, get that muscle memory down for the mechanics, and then when they have that at the older ages, maybe like 10, 11, 12, 13, that's when we can try to get more power when they already have that foundation of the mechanics. The power will come. We have to teach the efficient hitting mechanics first. And some more things. Advanced situational baseball, like bunt defenses. If your league doesn't allow bunting, there's no reason to have bunt defenses, right? First and third defenses if there's no stealing home. Now, if you can't steal home, there's no reason to do a first and third play because you can't steal home. Just throw that ball down to second base, try to get that base running. Defensive shifts. Now, I put this in here because the 8U and the 9U players, they mostly, when they're hitting, all they want to do is get to hit the ball and play, right? And we want our players, instead of moving to different positions, we want them to learn how to play their position in the area of the field that their position is. We don't want to have them moving all over. That's a little advanced concept that we can go over in later age groups. But for right now, at this young age, we want them to learn their position, where they are, and how to move in their position. We want them to be able to move to that ball and develop that range rather than just placing them there and having them field a ball. So that's why I put this in here. I wouldn't teach defensive shifts at this young age. And no doubles, that's a situation, and that's really your choice. So no doubles is when the corner infielders and the corner outfielders, they kind of play towards the line to not allow any doubles. That's really up to you. I think it's a little advanced concept, so it's really up to you if you want to teach no doubles. And in closing, these are kids who are loving the game and they're seeing big changes, not only in their skills, but in their body. They are growing so rapidly that they're just seeing a whole bunch of changes, and that could really affect their mechanics, that could really affect their play. So their skills might be going up and down based on their body changing, and we need to think about that. They struggle in processing and handling emotions. They need to learn how to win and lose. So at this age, they're really getting passionate about the game. They're really loving the game. And when they win, they're on a super, super high. And when they lose, they're on a super, super low. They don't really know how to process those emotions and handle those emotions. So one thing that we should really be teaching them is how to be a good winner, but also how to be a good loser and respond to adversity. And we need to double down on skill development and baseball IQ. This is the prime time for teaching them baseball. Focus on practicing, focus on scrimmages, and teaching the game. So I hope you like this video. I hope this kind of set the stage for the 8U and the 9U age group. And everything in here kind of boils down to the skill development and the developing the baseball IQ and understanding the game. So I really hope this helped you out if you're feeling kind of confused about what you should be teaching your players. And before you go, if you look down in the description, I have some free guides that I like to give you. There's a 2-hour practice plan. There's a baseball equipment sizing guide. There's a batting practice guide on how to conduct batting practice. There's a lot of free guides down in the description. You can just feel free to choose any one that you want, and I made it for you for free. So I'll see you next week for the 10U and 11U age group. Remember, I'm Coach Hart. This is Building Better Baseball, and this is the best place for baseball education. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next week.